guys, welcome back to my channel. So I just finished watching the last episode of season 1 of Loki. Y'all, first of all, my reaction will be under my YouTube memberships. If you are new here and you do not know what that is, it is a few special perks for members only. I've got 2 levels of memberships over there. Level 1 is for $2.99 and you get priority replies from me, special polls, and soon come live streams. And level 2 is for $4.99 and you get everything that level 1 has, plus you get all of my reactions to all the shows like this, any movies that I may watch, and all of my uncut try not to laughs. So, of course, this episode is a doozy. First of all, let me just say that I absolutely enjoyed this series, this season. I really did. So Loki and Sylvie are kind of staring off beyond where they were in the last episode, and they are looking at what looks like a castle in outer space. Like, it's really weird. And so she was gonna kick the door in when they got to the front, and the door opened on its own. So when they got in there, they were met by Miss Minutes, who actually got sent there by Ramona to go find some files on them or something like that. And then she reported back to Ramona and told her that he said that those files were better for her to look into. They didn't state what those files were. I don't know what they are. It was ones that she wasn't looking for, but clearly he, who I'm assuming he who remains, sent those files to her for her to look at, which was better than what she was looking for. So I don't know what they are. They didn't say. She ended up leaving or walking through one of those time doors looking for free will, but that was later in the episode. So anyway, so they're met by Miss Minutes, and Miss Minutes by name introduced them to He Who Remains, which is played by Jonathan Majors. And so he did a pretty good job playing He Who Remains too. So he shows up, and at first, before they met up with him, Miss Minutes was kind of talking to them about what was going on and gave them a few options, but they were like, no, we'll write our own destiny. So she was like, all right, suit yourself, and she left. So then they ended up running into He Who Remains. So he brought them to his office, and they're up there talking. He's basically just explaining to them who he is. Like, he knows all, he created all. And, you know, initially Miss Minutes was offering them to live the lives that they wanted, but they refused. So now they end up talking to He Who Remains. So initially we get a glimpse at another part of... So a couple of years back, I guess, B15, the TVA people, are in a school, and Ramona shows up like a teacher. And so one of them is just like, this isn't so-and-so. And she was like, yeah, we've got a lot to explain. So that was kind of like open-ended. Like left open, kind of. I was just like, so how did she end up with the TVA? You know? So anyway, unless she was there was another variant of her, I don't know, but B15 was going to be explaining some stuff. So anyway, so now Sylvie and Loki are talking to He Who Remains. At this point, Sylvie is trying her best to kill him any way she can, and he just keeps kind of warping into different spots or whatever, basically getting away. So anyway, they're sitting in his office, and he's basically reading them like, I know everything, I know who you were, I know what you did. And she's sitting there really like mad, and she's trying to kill him still. So he explains how there was a variant. There was so much I was trying to catch on. So he explains that there was a variant in the 31st century of himself who was a scientist. And somehow they were trying to figure some stuff out. And then I forgot how this went and what he said, but basically there was like a whole bunch of variants that were kind of like fighting each other. And he ended up kind of taking, I don't know if it was like taking the mind of the um that dragon thing, but then he started to go into some other stuff. So he basically let them know there's other variants of him, and he was just like, if you think I'm evil, wait until you meet my other variants. So in my mind, I immediately thought back at King the Conqueror, because he was like, oh, she still calls me that, meaning Miss Minutes calls him He Who Remains. And then he was like, oh, they call me a bunch of other things. You know, they call me uh, he Who Remains or Conqueror. And I'm just like, oh, King the Conqueror? So am I like, is this connected? Yeah. So, and see, this is just me learning how all this stuff connects. So I'm just kind of super excited right now, because I'm just like, oh, now I really want to know how this ends up, like all the talks about this stuff connecting to all these other movies that are coming out and stuff like that. But anyway, that's besides the point. So anyway, he does insinuate that the other variants of him are a lot more evil than he is. So if Sylvie kills him, he's only going to come back, but so are the variants, and the variants are worse than him. Or they can take over and run it with him still being alive, type of thing. Either way, you know, he's basically given up his power because he says that he's too old and he's looks younger than he is, and what he does is meant for younger people like them, I guess. So at this point, Sylvie is really trying to kill him, and then Loki gets in the way. So Loki at this point is believing him, and you've got Sylvie who doesn't believe a word that he is saying, and then Loki is trying to weigh the options. So then they end up getting into a big fight. I mean, really bad. They're going after each other, and she's trying to kill him, and Loki's getting in the way, and then all of a sudden she gets really close to He Who Remains, and then Loki kind of zaps in her way, throws his sword, and kind of calms her down and tells her, you know, I just want you to be okay. I don't want anything else. He starts crying. She's crying. They kiss. I was like, oh my God, this is so nice. And she was like, I want you to be okay. And she pushes him back out into a different time zone. I don't know if she knew that, but he ends up away from her. Um, and at this point, the they have reached the threshold. So now he doesn't know what's going to happen next. And I'm just sitting here like, well, wait a minute. How does he not know what's going to happen next? Like, shouldn't he know that this was all going to happen? So he was like, now I don't know. So now everything is starting to branch off, which to me is not a really good thing at all. Because if this stuff is starting to go crazy, that means that, like, if I'm understanding this correctly, like there's going to be a ton of lots of chaos and lots of confusion. So yeah, so then after all of this, Sylvie sends Loki away. Loki ends up at the TVA, and he's looking for Mobius, and they end up running into each other. He sees everybody running around. They run into each other, and Mobius is talking to him like he doesn't know who he is. And you know, you can see at first when they show Loki again, he's sitting there, he's crying, he's hurt, but then he runs off to go find them. In the meantime, Sylvie is with He Who Remains, and she ends up stabbing him. And he's like, see you soon. And I was like, oh shoot, this is kind of crazy. So now she sits back, and it looks like she's regretting it. So then Loki ends up finding Mobius, and he's calling him something. He's like, "What? Like, who are you talking about?" And so he turns around and he sees a statue of He Who Remains. And I'm just like, "Oh my God, he's in a different time zone. He's like in a different time." And initially, they could have coexisted, him and Sylvie, in the same timeline as Loki's, but she didn't let that happen. So now I'm wondering if he got thrown back to the timeline, considering that he is looking at his statue where that was the 31st century and he's a scientist. But then I'm like, wait a minute, no, that can't be, because Mobius is still there, B-15 is still there, and she's looking at this stuff and she's like, this stuff is starting to branch out. What do we do? And he's like, we can't do anything. It's over. And he's trying to warn them. Loki is trying to warn them, to let them know, like, look, there's about to be a war. There's about to be some real evil people coming out here. And they're not trying to hear him out. And that's kind of how it ends. And we see, He Who Remains is just dead. Which is interesting. So I was like, oh my gosh. So now I'm starting to kind of piece things together and see how things are going to continue in season 2. So, oh man, y'all, I really, really, really enjoyed season 1 of Loki, and I cannot wait to get into season 2. I think that they did a great job. He did a great job. I forget his name in real life, but he did such an amazing job playing Loki. Sylvie, she did a great job. Mobius, I forget his name too. But this was really well done. This is probably one of my favorite shows I've watched. And I've got a lot to watch, but I've also seen a few already, and I really, really enjoyed every single one of them. Like, this had me at the edge of my seat, and now at the end of this season, I cannot wait to watch the first episode of season 2. So let me not waste any more time. I give this season 1 of Loki, 4.5 out of 5 toodles, only because I wish there was more episodes, but I think they did an amazing job. I really like the concept. I like how they waited till the end to introduce He Who Remains, which was a pretty cool kind of way out and intro into the second season. So I cannot wait to watch it. Leave your comments down below. Let me know if you guys enjoyed season 1 of Loki, if you enjoyed my review, my thoughts, my rating. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe to my channel, hit like, share, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you guys can get notified whenever I pop up on your feed. I'll see you guys later. Toodles!